Since the Nintendo Switch 2 is now 1 month old, I can confidently say I have spent enough hours with the system in order to get a full grasp of what it has to offer. And I thought it would be best if I let you guys ask me questions in a recent community post. That way I know what you guys are actually curious about. But if you missed the post and still would like to ask me any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I will get to as many of them as possible, but for now, here are my full, honest thoughts after playing the Switch 2 for 1 month. How is the Switch 2 different than the original one? Well, first things first, if you put them side by side, you can see that the Switch 2 is substantially larger than the Switch 1, with a 7.9-inch screen compared to the 6.2-inch screen. Keep in mind, I am using the day 1 version of the Switch 1, so it does not have that 7-inch OLED display. But regardless of the model, any Switch 1 feels the exact same. On the other hand, when comparing it to Switch 2, that's when the differences are huge. I find the larger size better suits my hands, and despite it being heavier than the original Switch, I could still game for a longer period of time without any discomfort. But for a kid or somebody with smaller hands, they might find it a little too big to hold comfortably. In terms of performance, the Switch 2 is miles better than the Switch 1. Last gen games now run with more consistent frame rates, and loading times are much faster. And that's not including the games that received free upgrades or the games that now have Switch 2 editions, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They now both run at 4K 60 FPS when docked to your TV, or 1080p 60 FPS when in handheld mode. But putting the console itself aside, I want to talk about the Joy-Cons. They are more ergonomic, more responsive, and the magnetic attachment system gives it that extra security that the Switch 1 rail wished it had. With the Switch 2, it feels like I'm playing an actual premium console, but with the Switch 1, it feels more like a toy. There is much less wiggle, and you don't have to listen to plastic wearing down over time. What's your opinion on the pricing of games, consoles, accessories, or etc.? In the US, the Switch 2 by itself costs $450 or $500 if you get the Mario Kart World Bundle. Before the price announcement, myself and many others expected around a $400 price point, especially due to the Switch OLED costing around $350. But considering all of the system features, the current state of the economy, and the corporate attitude that Nintendo has put on in recent times, the $450 price point is not that surprising to me. However, the real issue is with the games and accessories. It was only a matter of time for Nintendo to hop on the AAA train and start charging $70 for titles, but demanding $80 for Mario Kart World and the Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom? It seems like with the new executives, they have completely disregarded the affordable, wacky approach to their games and joined the greedy corporate business club. And the same thing applies to accessories. They sure are asking a lot for something that might not work properly in a year, such as the controllers. But hopefully they will offer some sort of repair service like they had for the Switch 1, or maybe third-party companies will offer replacement Hall Effect joysticks. Which games did you buy since release? The first game I bought was Mario Kart World. Well, that was really because I bought the bundle, but aside from that, I pre-ordered Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is a shame that it wasn't a launch title. More on that in a bit. And for the first time, I subscribed to the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online. I mostly did that to play Wind Waker again, but you also get access to both upgrades for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But other than that, I have not bought any of the third-party titles, since they aren't ones I was too interested in anyways before the Switch 2. But back to what I said about Donkey Kong Bonanza not being a launch title. The Switch 2 is currently lacking something that past consoles had at launch, and that is a new first-party single-player story game. And don't get me wrong, Mario Kart World is a fantastic game. It is a wonderful experience to play both alone and with friends. But not having a game like Donkey Kong Bonanza or even Metroid Prime 4 at launch, it feels kinda wrong. Of course, they will release in the near future, but if they release day 1, there would be a much greater incentive to actually buy the Switch 2. Now on to more of the faster paced questions. Is Mario Kart World alone worth getting the console? In general, I think it's a bad idea to buy a console for just one game. But I'm sure there are people out there that are Mario Kart enthusiasts that only plan on playing Mario Kart World. It's kind of like somebody buying a VR headset to only play Beat Saber, or somebody building an expensive PC just to play Minecraft. But to answer your question, I'd say no. It takes more than just one game. Do you think your first month with the Switch 2 was better than your first month with the Switch? Back when the Switch 1 came out, I was in middle school, so of course the new console excitement was greater than it is now. Even though I may have screamed with excitement over GameCube NSO. However, for that first month, I only had 1-2 Switch and Breath of the Wild. But this go round, I have Mario Kart World and my entire Switch 1 collection of games. So I'd say I had a better first month with the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1. What's your thoughts on the hate that both Nintendo and the Switch 2 has received since its release? So I'm a mixed bag on this one. I fully believe it's justified to criticize Nintendo on things like raising prices super high or threatening to brick your entire system if you try to mod it in any way. But hate is a strong word. They're making some absolutely crazy choices, but at the end of the day, they are not the only company doing it. But the Switch 2 hate, that mostly comes from the Sony, Xbox, or PC fanboys. There's always been a feud between fans, claiming that one system is better than the other. But that's completely subjective. Just play what you find fun. And now, for the big question that everybody wants the answer to, is the Switch 2 worth it? For me, yes. Mostly because I've been a part of the Nintendo ecosystem since I was a little kid, and I just love playing the games they have to offer. But for everyone else, I believe it all comes down to the games you like to play. If you like the games from the Switch 1 generation and are interested in the upcoming Switch 2 games, I think you'll find a lot of enjoyment out of this console. But if you mostly care about the third-party, cross-platform games, maybe invest in a PC handheld. Although the Switch 2 can handle most modern games to a degree, you may find it worthwhile to purchase a system that has access to Steam. But what do you think? Do you find the Switch 2 to be worth it after just 1 month? Let me know in the comments. But that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching.